Marseille, the oldest city in France and its largest commercial harbour, the capital of Provence, an enchanting region full of contrast. It is believed that in 600 BC, travellers from the Greek town of Phocis founded the autonomous town of Marseille. In the Middle Ages, the city's main harbour was used by the Crusaders to embark upon their journey to Jerusalem. From a distance, one of Marseille's main landmarks rises high above the harbour, the Seafarers' Church of Notre-Dame de la Garde. Its interior has an abundance of Byzantine arches, gilded mosaics, and numerous votives. A triumphant structure inspired by Byzantine Romantic design. The church resembles a fortress. From here, there's a fascinating view across an endless sea of houses of a city that, under Ludwig XIV, was once rich and powerful. It was France's gateway to Africa. The old harbour was once the pulsating heart of the city. The first harbour of the Greek settlers who came here served as a gateway to Asia Minor. They were duly followed by the Romans. During the Crusades, the harbour flourished once more, and the city's hectic trade during the time of French colonization attracted many new settlers. The old harbour has always been at the heart of Marseille. Warehouses originated throughout the harbour area, whose wide variety of restaurants and bars are popular both day and night. Always busy. But the golden age of trade is long gone. The harbour is both too small and too shallow. Now it's only used by fishing vessels, pleasure boats and yachts. In the early hours, there's much activity at the Quai des Berges fish market. The freshly caught produce is immediately offered for sale alongside the fishing boats. Two mighty fortresses overlook the harbour. The northern Fort Saint-Jean is the oldest and was used by the Order of the Knights of Malta. It was the French King Ludwig XIV, the Sun King, who ordered construction of the fortress. He required the finest protection for his largest and most revered harbour. The most impressive religious building in Marseille is a fortified monastery church that dates back to the 5th century, the mighty Abbaye Saint Victor. Deep down in the rock is an early Christian crypt and a number of stone sarcophaguses that contain the remains of various holy martyrs that date back to the Roman persecution of the Christians. From outside, the Cathédrale de la Mer is almost like a domed mountain, reminiscent of Notre-Dame de la Garde. This rather ostentatious church building of Romantic Byzantine design was built on the foundations of a baptistry that dates back to the 5th century. This triumphal arch is located close to the Saint-Charles station. The dead of both the French Revolution and the French Empire are honoured here. The Palais de Longchamp. This flamboyant palace of Second Empire design was built in 1869, according to the plans of architect Henri Esperandieu. It was the terminal of an 80-kilometre-long canal that supplied Marseille with the waters of the Durance. A semicircular building with a double row of Ionic arcades and a large monumental fountain complex with stepped water features. Stone busts and ancient figures lead into a well-laid-out park above the buildings. And there's even a small zoo. The architects of the 19th century well knew how to combine historic abundance with modern techniques. An imperial work of a golden age. When visiting Marseille, it's good to experience one of the boat trips that travels to a small island that is located close to the coast. The Château d'If, the most famous of many small islands that lie just off the coast. Close to the shore indeed, but once much feared. The fortress extended across the entire island. Its steep walls ended in the sea. The building was impregnable. Due to its unique location, the complex was soon transformed into a prison for both Protestant as well as political prisoners. Escape from here was impossible. The tiny island was made famous due to a novel by Alexandre Dumas, The Count of Monte Cristo. The ferryboat brings new visitors to the island and returns to the mainland, to liberty. Close by is Cassis, a charming fishing village with a picturesque harbour that is typical of the Mediterranean. A small medieval castle still surveys the village's population of 7,000. Although busy at weekends and holiday time, this small coastal village is appreciated by one and all, including numerous famous artists of bygone times. With the colourful and neatly laid out houses located along the quay, it's easy to understand why it's also popular with the inhabitants of Marseille. A boat trip from Cassis leads to one of the most beautiful coastal areas in Europe, Les Calanques, a unique nature reserve. Shining white limestone cliffs plunge more than 400 meters into the deep blue sea. They extend for 20 kilometers. This rocky coastline was deforested in antiquity and has since become a popular nesting place for several species of migratory bird. The many fjord-like inlets here originated during the last ice age and are only accessible by boat. The crystal clear, emerald green water of the bays is a marvellous sight. An idyllic and restful setting. The limestone here is easily worked and was much in demand as building material for the Suez Canal. In 1975, this area was officially designated as a nature reserve. The journey along the impressive mountain road is an unforgettable adventure. The Corniche des Crêtes travels 17 kilometers along the coast, high above the Calanque. The road continues to climb along breathtaking, dizzy bends. The horizon gradually extends further and further. French artist Paul Cézanne once created a famous and historic painting of this special paradise. Wind and weather have created a smooth plateau here. Forest fires in the hot, dry summers and icy winter storms have gradually eroded the incredible terrain. The scenery is fascinating. It's like a moonscape and is far removed from all the hubbub of Marseille. The views across the azure-blue coastline of the steep Calanque and the mountain world of Provence are truly remarkable. The rugged and rocky mountain landscape highlights the determination of those who once colonized North Africa from here. Hot springs once inspired the Romans to settle in a valley below the Celtic oppidum that they had previously destroyed. However, today's Aix-en-Provence, along with its numerous lanes, is one of the most beautiful cities in France. The numerous fountains within its old and majestic squares indicate the city's unique ambience and romantic character. More than 40 spectacular fountains help to cool down this ancient town in the hot months of summer, when both foreign and French tourists visit the city. Aix has been the capital of the Counts of Provence since the 12th century. However, it was only later that the city became an important centre of culture. There is no other building in the city that unites as many historical styles and epochs than the Saint-Sauveur Cathedral. Its origins date back far to the early history of the city. Gothic facades are few and far between within the religious architecture of this region, thus demonstrating the value of the church in this, the former centre of a Roman colony. The diversity of the architecture is particularly evident within the interior of this religious building that, over the years, has witnessed much transformation. The oldest part of the church, the 5th century baptisterium with its 8 Roman columns, is a reminder of early Christian times. The people of Aix-en-Provence are rightly proud of their dramatic past, a source of inspiration. Fontaine-de-Vaucluse, a medieval town in Aix-en-Provence, where the depths of the spring of the river Saule are unexplored. The crystal clear water attracts a large number of pilgrims who come here to observe the subterranean river that is located in a large canyon. Bridges span the shining green river, and these water wheels are relics of an age when weaving mills and dye houses were powered by water. Water from the largest spring in Europe flows constantly from an opening in the closed valley. A steep cliff of the Vaucluse Mountains overlooks the end of the impressive valley. The journey continues through green forests and tree-lined roads, through the landscape of the Luberon, a partly inhabited and unique nature park. Today, this region is also popular with cyclists. Many artists travel to Gard. Half a century ago, this mountain village was almost deserted, but today it has a population of 2,000. And both Victor Vasarely and André Lot once lived and worked here. A Renaissance castle that was built on the remains of a fortress rises majestically above the rooftops, surrounded by old buildings. Gard is situated on the steep slopes of the Vaucluse Plateau. The village nestles on a rocky hillside. The stone buildings seem to have been built to last forever. The architecture encapsulates the historic character of Provence, a region with a colourful past. Elevated and strategic sites were once the favoured location of the region's fortified villages. A picture postcard village set high above the Coulon Valley, with a panoramic view across a fascinating landscape that has inspired many an artist. Narrow stone streets travel through the village to the castle that was saved from ruin by the Hungarian artist Vasarely. In the heat of the day, visitors gather in tiny, shady courtyards that are calm and tranquil even when crowded. Various artists who've grown weary of city life have brought new prosperity to this picturesque mountain village whose original inhabitants left it for France's towns and cities. Just a little to the south of Gard is a museum village that contains several fascinating stone buildings. These round huts have been built in the shape of barrels and are known as boris, consisting of a mound of rocks and without any use of mortar. Each hut is surrounded by an empty space that in turn is surrounded by a number of upright stone slabs. In spite of their archaic appearance, the boris were built in the late Middle Ages as dwellings for the local farming community. Thick walls and tiny slits help to protect against both heat and cold, a construction technique that has been in use since Neolithic times. In both Vaucluse and in Luberon, there are more than 3,000 bories of various dimensions. In the Gard region, there are around 300. A few kilometers north is the captivating and remote Sénanque Valley. This is the location of the ancient Notre-Dame de Sénanque monastery, a place of silence amid blossoming and strongly scented fields of lavender. The old Cistercian monastery is situated at the foot of a hill and has a well thought out and functional design. It's one of the last 3 remaining Cistercian monasteries in Provence, where travellers could break bread, sup water, and have a bed for the night. Although the monastery was built in the 12th century in the simple architectural style of the day, the various capitals of its cloister are still admired today. Twelve men from Vivarais and an abbot originally founded the monastery. This corresponds to Jesus and his 12 apostles. Today, 6 monks still live here. Asceticism, labour, humility, and a strong sense of faith are the main virtues of the Cistercian order. Various exhibitions often take place here. Shining natural colour helped to make this village located on the hills north of Gard famous. Roussillon, with its colourful abundance of ochre. Its rocky buildings shine out resplendently, and numerous pathways lead across its ochre-coloured hills. Ochre is also a strong stain. Prehistoric man painted caves with it, and the Romans mined it and used it in the production of ceramics and cosmetics. Ochre is created by a combination of alumina and ferric oxide. Its resultant colour varies according to the proportion of these elements, from light yellow to rusty red. Provence is a land of stimulating aromas and bright skies. Nowhere else are the colours of nature so magnificent. And nowhere else are there so many different scents. A very special plant grows within this sunny hill landscape. Lavender. Once wild, but now carefully cultivated. Lavender was used by the Romans as an antiseptic. And in today's perfume industry, lavender oil is a vital ingredient in a large variety of products. Due to the region's special soil, high-quality vines grow here, producing a hearty red wine. The climate in the south of France makes fields of both corn and sunflower stand out from the surrounding landscape. Everything seems to glow in the bright colours of Van Gogh. and the fragrance of blossoming flowers and herbs fills the air. Bonnieux is the Mont Saint-Michel of Provence, the most beautiful village in Luberon Minor. As this prosperous mountain village was Catholic, it was the only village in the region that was never attacked or plundered. Sur Le Pont D'Avignon. Thus begins the world-famous French song that is familiar to both young and old alike. It is a song of dance on the bridge of the Pont Saint Bénézet. But it's more likely that the people here once danced under the bridge, as that is the location of its bars. The impressive Pope's Palace dominates the centre of the town. On the outside, it resembles a military fortress rather than a religious residence. Internal disputes, in addition to power struggles in Rome, transformed Avignon into the new seat of the pontificate. A coat of arms above the main entrance is reminiscent of the papal court that was founded by Clement VI. During his term of office, he added a new and more luxurious building to the old palace that was constructed between 1334 and 1342. The beauty of this place manifests itself in the numerous terraces and towers that were used for defensive purposes in the 14th and 15th centuries. Seven French popes transformed Avignon into one of the most glamorous medieval courts in Europe. The idyllic park landscape of the Jardin du Rocher follows the cathedral that originated in Roman times. Only with the Great Plague of 1721 and the subsequent French Revolution did its further success come to an end. And the bridge sank into the Rhône. Various of Caesar's veterans settled in Orange, with all the comforts of a Roman town: circus, capitol, thermal baths, and numerous temples. The Theatre Antique is a splendidly preserved theatre with a huge stage, excellent acoustics, and seating for 10,000. King Augustus gives a warm welcome from one of the niches, and a female wolf suckles Romulus and Remus. Roman history in Provence. Modern highways travel to the southwest. To Pont du Gard, the most famous section of the water route to Nîmes that was built by the Romans 2,000 years ago. A bridge-like aqueduct. It spans across the river valley for 275 meters. It supports a freestanding and built without the use of mortar. Each day, 20,000 cubic meters of fresh water flowed at a height of 49 meters across the uppermost row of arches. For almost 2,000 years, an imposing Roman amphitheatre has dominated the city of Nîmes. It is the capital of the Departement Gard that is situated on the periphery of Provence. In bygone times, bloody gladiatorial battles took place in the arena, but today it is matadors and bulls. Nîmes, or Nemosis as the Romans called their colony, developed into an important centre. Many years after the barbaric Roman games and its transformation to a medieval fortress, this building served as the residential quarters for several hundred people right up to the beginning of the 19th century. In addition to various concerts and operas, bullfights also take place here. The nearby restaurant cafe is a popular meeting place. The Maison Carrée temple's excellent state of repair stems back to the time when it was transformed into a church. Thus, this pagan building that dates back to the 1st century AD was spared from destruction by the Christians. The Jardin de la Fontaine Park dates back to Nîmes' earliest days. The god Nemos was once worshipped here by the Celts. The Baroque garden, with its rich array of sculptures, dates back to the 18th century, when the city enjoyed much prosperity. There's a large fortified tower on the hill. It's a reminder of the former Roman city wall that once stood here. A beautiful fountain graces the Place de la République in the heart of Arles, an historic and charming small town in the south of France. Next to the city hall is the Romanic Saint-Trophime Cathedral with its splendid church porch that dates back to the 12th century. Including illustrations of the 12 Apostles and the Final Judgment. The cathedral's atmospheric cloister is regarded in Provence to be an architectural gem of Romanic art. But as with many other sacred buildings, it also contains numerous elements of Gothic architecture. This town and its tiny squares and charming cafes has retained its special provincial charm. The amphitheatre is the region's greatest building and survived from the time of the Roman Empire. It is also the most important arena in the former Gallic colony. The two-story building contains 120 arches of ochre-coloured limestone. It was built in the most elevated area of the town. At one time, more than 20,000 spectators watched the gladiatorial battles that took place here. The town is closely associated with the name of a world-famous Dutch painter, a man highly underrated in his own lifetime, Vincent van Gogh. His work is now world-famous and has survived the passage of time. The Langlois drawbridge became the Pont Van Gogh. a world-famous motif of the great Grand Master, who created almost 400 works here in the final years leading up to his death. The unique landscape of the Camargue is relatively young. The region along the Rhône Delta that developed in the Quaternary period enjoys a good degree of sunshine. A number of the region's inhabitants are as famous as the landscape of the south of France, such as the famous white horses of the Camargue. It's believed that the Camargue grew to its present size of approximately 95,000 hectares 10,000 years ago. The wild vegetation and natural swampland known as the étangs are essential breeding grounds for millions of birds. Many endangered and rare species of bird have found their final refuge in the Camargue. Flamingos are one of the region's most colourful indigenous birds. The pink of their feathers is due to the high consistency of brack in the water. While various endangered bird species are protected in the Camargue's ornithological park, large numbers of birds fly overhead. Seemingly endless waterways, rivers and canals extend across the Camargue. Entertainment is also well catered for here, as a small train travels through a huge area that features each of the region's animals. It could be called Disneyland à la Camargue. This fertile, often flooded landscape has been used for agriculture since the Middle Ages. In addition to rice and wine, it also contains forests. Up to the end of September, the farmland of the Camargue's rice farmers is flooded with water up to 20 centimeters deep. However, the cultivation of rice also has its drawbacks. Due to the increasing desalinization of the land, this fragile ecosystem is gradually being undermined. Herds of bulls also enjoy the shade of the willow trees. A few kilometers away, plants blossom in striking colors, in stark contrast to the scant and desolate Salines. The Camargue has fascinated numerous painters and authors since time immemorial. Both man and beast feels good here, and there's a lot to see and do. The fascinating Parc Ornithologique contains many rare and colourful birds that were once to be seen throughout the whole of France. The land and the waterways of this region have remained unspoiled by man. A journey by boat reveals the full beauty of the landscape. Both natural and artificial canals travel through the tributaries of the Rhône. journey along the canals and swamps provides a fascinating and at the same time close encounter with several indigenous animals and plants. The preservation of this unique landscape, a true paradise on earth, should not only be assisted by UNESCO, but also by its visitors. The diversity of the landscape is as multifaceted as the various impressions that it imparts. It's not surprising that it attracts a large number of artists. Thus, the natural colours of the Camargue and its captivating, charismatic inhabitants will continue to enchant visitors for many more years to come. One of the most well-preserved medieval fortifications in Europe surrounds the small town of Aigues-Mortes along the western periphery of the Camargue in the south of France. The town was established in 1240. 8 years later, the mighty Constance Tower was completed. From the city wall that is 11 meters high and 6 meters thick, there's a wonderful view across the rooftops of this once impregnable city. The 1,700-metre-long town wall of Aigues-Mortes consists of 10 gates and 5 defensive towers, a true masterpiece of medieval architecture. In the 13th century, King Louis the Holy was in search of a suitable location for a harbour on the Mediterranean that would serve both trade and military purposes. The Aigues-Mortes region was far from ideal, as it was a swampland on which it was almost impossible to build. However, the orders of the king had to be obeyed. Thus, King Louis IX and his army eventually embarked from Aigues-Mortes to conquer the Holy Land for Christianity. However, the crusade was unsuccessful, the king having been taken prisoner, and the town gradually lost its importance. The church of Notre-Dame-des-Sablons dates back to the founding years of the town. Originally, it was built in Gothic style, and over the years it was constantly improved. But in 1638, its church tower collapsed. But thanks to its splendid town wall, Aigues-Mortes still captures the atmosphere of the Middle Ages. The former village of both fishermen and shepherds, Saintes-Maries-de-la-Mer, is located in the centre of the Camargue. Each year, numerous gypsy families gather here. The people here once lived in huts with roofs that were made of reed. The buildings have now been transformed into riding stables and restaurants. Images of the region's wild white horses and black bulls have been circulated around the globe. This is a world of freedom and adventure. This defiant-looking sandstone yellow church in the centre of the village is one of the most beautiful sacred buildings in Provence. In the heat of the midday sun, the village looks deceptively desolate. However, in the high season, its streets are crowded and its hotels are full. Gypsies read palms and folk groups perform. Bulls are important to the village, as indicated by the arena and monument. The huge yacht harbour attracts people from the surrounding towns. Long sandy beaches invite both swimming and sunbathing. And it was here that 3 holy women were once stranded. For as long as can be remembered, the delta of the River Rhône has been used for the production of sea salt. And Salin-de-Giraud is the centre of this industry. A small train travels through this huge region, with 770 hectares of salt fields and various huge industrial mountains of salt. Roads built on dams separate the numerous salt fields that look like a shining white desert. A colourful picture beneath the scorching sun. Seawater with a content of 29 grams of salt per litre covers a salt field of 9,400 hectares. Nine-tenths of the water must evaporate in order to reach the 280 grams of salt per litre that is required. With a system of bucket wheels, around 80 million cubic metres of water are pumped from the sea into an ingenious system of canals. Between April and August, the water evaporates due to the summer heat and dry winds. In September, harvesting can begin. The salt deposits are collected from the fields with modern machinery, up to 800,000 tonnes each year. Salt is then washed and finally exported. In the 10th century, Benedictine monks settled in the marshlands of the Rhône Delta and founded the Abbaye de Montmajour. Construction of the monastery was financed by the thousands of pilgrims who travelled here across the marshland. A winding mountain road leads into the undulating inland up to the Moulin de Daudet. On the limestone plateau above the village of Fontvieille is a simple windmill that became a tourist attraction due to a famous poet. French poet Alphonse Daudet described the mill and the aromatic landscape in one of his popular works. However, his bestseller Letters from My Mill wasn't written here, but in Paris. The romantic medieval village of Les Baux-de-Provence is situated on a rocky plateau surrounded by the charming mountain landscape of Provence. The historic origins of the village, that has a population of around 400, dates back to the first millennium AD. In the Middle Ages, this small town became a centre of power, while the corrupt owner of its castle ruled over most of the region. With the gradual decline of the Les Baux family, life here became less tempestuous. But later, rebellious Protestants settled in the village. Steep steps led up to the plateau where today only the ruins of a once huge castle are to be found. Artists and scholars once met here. Medieval siege machines are reminders of earlier battles and wars. Here, the noise of the ammunition from catapults once filled the air and drowned out the songs of the troubadours. Now, only a few ruins are all that remain. They blend in with the natural white limestone rock of the high plains. Provence is the sunny south of France, with historic towns from which both the Romans and the Papacy felt at home. With blossoming fields of lavender and ancient mountain villages full of atmosphere and culture, Provence is a land of sweet aromas and radiant light.